What's going on, guys? No More White here again for another video. I did make an update to the channel, or to the playlist at least, and what I've done is made a new playlist called EMU Black. Obviously things that are going to be pertaining to the EMU, tuning things, you know, how to set up sensors, how to calibrate stuff, whatever. This video in particular is going to show you how to wire and set up the fuel pressure sensor for the EMU Black. So I'll show you, what pins you can pin it to and how to set it up in the software. This is a pretty short video. I hope this video is going to be about 8 to 10 minutes long. Don't quote me on that, but I hope it'll be around there. So without further ado, let me just show you the sensor and show you what you need to do to get it all hooked up and installed. You'll have to excuse me if it's windy, but this is the sensor I got. This is ECU Masters brand WHP. It's a 7-bar fluid sensor, and it comes in a really nice package. It comes with the sensor, it comes with some thread sealant, it comes with the connector, and it comes with the pins to terminate the wiring. And also, if you look on the back, it's a very simple diagram. It gives you the pinouts. So you need a sensor ground, a 5-volt supply, and the analog input, or the signal that's coming out of the sensor going into the EMU. So as you guys know, on my IS300, obviously this is going to apply to anybody. It doesn't really matter what car you're using this on. On my IS300, I have this fuel pressure regulator right here, and I have a gauge on here now. This gauge is kind of broken. It works, but I'm going to take this gauge off and put my sensor right where this gauge is at. This sensor is the traditional 1/8 inch MPT, just like this gauge. So I'm just going to unscrew this gauge and put the sensor right on there. I'm not going to show you guys how to do that. It's super simple. Just unscrew this and screw in the other one. Voila. As far as the wiring is concerned, I already have my 3 wires ran down into the EMU, which is inside the car. Sorry if you hear that noise in the background. My son's out here messing around with his RC car. Matter of fact, let me show you a little clip of it. That thing's pretty fast. It's made by a company called Arma. I think they'll do like 65 miles an hour right out the box. So thing's pretty fast, huh? He loves RC cars. So yeah, so if you hear that in the background, then that's what the noise is. Now, in regards to the wiring for this sensor, it needs 3 wires in total: a sensor ground, a 5-volt supply, and an analog input. So you can wire it to whatever analog input you want. I chose to wire it to analog input number 1, which for me is B31 pin on the EMU Black. That means the black connector in pin 31. And then as far as the 5-volt supply, I ran mine to B34. You can also use B26 if you'd like. It really doesn't matter. It just kind of depends on how your wiring is and what you have available to use. The 5-volt supply, you can use that on many different sensors. Mine aren't being used at all, so I just randomly chose B34, and that'll work for me. And then lastly, the ground needs to be a sensor ground, not a chassis ground, not a body ground. It needs to be a sensor ground. I chose to use B38. There is B39, but for me, my cam and crank sensors are grounded through B39, and I don't want any more interference or anything like that, so I'm going to specifically choose B38. There may be another sensor ground on there. I don't know. You just have to look at the EMU pinout to see which ones you can use. I've already run those wires into my EMU, and those are the 3 wires you saw in the engine bay. So all I'm going to do now is go ahead and terminate my wiring, connect that all up, and then I'll jump over to the software and show you guys how to set it up within the software. All right, got the wiring just temporarily hooked up here. Got my connector on, got the sensor on, the gauge is on. I got some heat shrink here. I'll go ahead and finalize that, and I have some loom for this. Once I get this all finalized, it's literally just going to run just how you see it, just like that, off of my other harness here. As nice as I can get it. So now let's go into the software, and I'll show you guys what you need to do in order to set it up. All right, so in the software, ideally you want to just get this to where you have the log showing. And remember, in my other videos I said you can change any of these to whatever parameters you want. So all we care about, you see this one right here, I've set to fuel pressure just so we can read it when I go and plug it into the car. Just to recap, you can literally right click on any of these things and change them to whatever you want. But you need to go into the sensor setup, which is over here on the left side. Open that up. and right below it on the very first thing you'll see it says analog inputs. Double click that and that'll bring up your list of analog inputs. Now depending on where you put it at, you want to make sure you have it says 1M pull down. Make sure that these are all default and that's how it should be. You really shouldn't have to mess with this, but in case somebody changed it or whatever, you want to make sure it says 1M pull down. Now mine is on analog input 1, so it's good to go already. So I can go on ahead and close this up now and I'll be fine with that. The next thing you want to check is to go where it says pressure over here. So you go to the pressure, click on that, and you'll go to the sensor wizard, which is right underneath it. Double click that and it'll bring up a select list of predefined calibrations already. Obviously this one is already set to the ECU Masters WHP 7-bar fuel pressure, but if for some reason you are installing an oil pressure sensor from them, you can use either one of these. I'm going to pick the 7-bar because that's already there, and what I want it to be used as is not AC pressure. So directly underneath that, I'm going to select it and I'm going to set it as fuel pressure. If you're using the sensor for any other reason besides fuel pressure, obviously you can change that, but I'm using it for fuel pressure sensor and that's what it's going to be. And then if you look on the package you got, or you can go to their website, 0.5 volts correlates to 0 bar or 0%. And then if you go to the maximum on the scale, 4.5 volts is 7 bar. And that's how they have their thing set up. So you can just click OK. And then you can go over to the parameters here and double click parameters. Parameters came up over here. Let me move it up so you can see what it is. I'll make it a little bigger for you. So here we have the parameters. So we're going to go straight to fuel pressure sensor input. Now whatever input you wired it to, for me it was analog input 1, you would just select that from the list. Obviously there's a lot of different inputs. I'm using this one, so analog input 1, that is going to be where I'm getting my signal from. And then directly underneath that is fuel pressure filter power. All that's going to do, I'm going to leave mine on 0. All that's going to do is kind of stabilize any major fluctuations you may have in your fuel pressure. Obviously this is reading the direct pressure of the fuel rail, and there sometimes is some, I don't know, I don't want to say vibrations, but kind of like not stable. Fuel pressure is not exactly stable all the time, so there are times where you can get some erratic readings. If you are getting erratic readings, go on ahead and just raise that power up slowly. You don't want to go too far because then you'll have some latency in your signal. So I'm going to leave mine on 0 for now and just see how it goes. But this is all you need to do to set it up. Make sure you set that up there on your pressure parameters. You can go on ahead and close that down and make sure that you save that. And then lastly, you want to go down to the fuel pressure calibration over here on the left. Click on that. It'll bring up this tiny little box over here. See if I move the box over there for you so you guys see what it looks like again. And then basically all this is the calibration. So if you're using some other sensor that is not the ECU master sensor, this is where you need to put your calibration. Obviously there's this predetermined, as we went through in that other box. 0 volts, or excuse me, 0.5 volts is 0 bar of pressure, and then 4.51 volts is 101 psi. That's what their pressure reading is. Just a nice linear curve. You don't need to change this. If you're using a different sensor, this is where you would change this, but like I said, you don't need to if you're using their sensor already. So you can go on ahead and close this up. So that's pretty much all you need to do to this. Then you go on ahead and plug it up into the car and make sure you don't have any leaks, and all should be good to go. So let me go plug this up, make sure it works, and we'll go from there. All right, got the car up and running. You can see over here, sorry for the giant reflection. You can see over here though that my fuel pressure is there. It's reading 44, 45-ish PSI, which is exactly what I had it set to on my gauge prior to taking the gauge off. So all of that is looking well, and you can see it's kind of like got some kind of jagged edges to it. That's what I was talking about as far as the filter power is concerned. I'm not really majorly concerned about that tiny little variation there. You can probably put the filter power on 2 or 3 and that'll likely smooth that line out. but as long as it's reading more or less what it's supposed to be, I am happy with that. So you can see that it's working. Let's go outside and verify there's no leaks. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. I will upload videos like this kind of occasionally. Really just wanted to get this stuff out there for the people who are using the EMU Black, because I know not a lot of people use them, or at least there's not a lot of support when it comes to that, at least when I go on YouTube and try to search things. So hopefully this helps somebody out. It doesn't really matter what car you're working on. Obviously these sensors can be used on many different applications, many different engines. You can even use them on different standalones. But obviously this is for the EMU Black in particular. So if you guys do also need tuning for that, hit me up on Instagram. I'm definitely active on there, and that's how I communicate with people. If you guys need tuning for the EMU Black, I can definitely help you out. I hope this video was helpful. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.